Good afternoon, Haneesh, and welcome to our yet another podcast. It's basically a series of interviews, in-depth interviews that we're conducting as a part of Green Finance Project, which is a project supported by IGES in Japan and is actually done in several other parts of India and the world as well. Haneesh, for our guests, Haneesh runs Himalayan Hemp. He's been doing that for several years. It's one of the most exciting green enterprises that I would say, that operates in India. Welcome, Haneesh. We would start with a brief introduction that you could give to us about you and your enterprise.
Right. Thank you, Swechha India, for this opportunity, and I would really appreciate your efforts in all these aspects that you're putting forward. Now to tell about our enterprise, when I say ours, I already interpreted it more like it's not mine, it's ours, because it's a community. And that is where it all started from. And I'm not the only founder of this. I have a co-founder, and we have an approach where we want more and more co-founders to be a part of this. Now, when we started Himalayan Hemp, there was a buzz in Uttarakhand that time that say cannabis or hemp is legal in Uttarakhand now. The government has come up with the policy. But the more we understood about it, it was more like, a policy which promoted industrial hemp as a foreign variety. Like you are expected to import seeds from outside and you grow them in the plant, in the land. And we felt that it was going to affect the biodiversity of the local indigenous variety, which already grows here in the mountains. And we also had a very firm belief, since I'm also from Himachal Pradesh, and I have a very strong and firm belief about this, that whatever I have seen in the nature around me, it's better to keep it as it is, and then reap the benefits in the best possible way that there is. And that is why we named our organization as Himalayan Hemp, because we were against that kind of a policy which promoted the import of the seeds and could potentially affect the biodiversity. And in that line, while going with this, we have registered so far 2 private limited companies and a Section 8 company. Our 2 private limited companies are Himalayan Hemp Industries Private Limited, Himalayan Hemp Textiles Private Limited, and the Section 8 company is Himalayan Hemp Research Foundation. So all these entities are formed because we have a cooperative model. Now, in this cooperative model, what we do is, this is a decentralized kind of a model where we have divided our organization into 4 different parts. First is the raw material part, in which, instead of keeping it in our control, what we try to do is we try to form the cooperatives or find already existing cooperatives of farmers and artisans who can join with us and who can give us the raw material and the finished products as per se. And second is the research part, where we have registered, one of the companies is registered, which is Himalayan Hemp Research Foundation, but another company that we want to register is Himalayan Hemp Seed Bank, which is more like seeds will be going to the farmer will be cultivating them, then research foundation will be working on the products which will be eventually created, taken forward by the artisans for the further in the further value chain. Then the third part is the commercialization, where we have both these private limited companies, like as I mentioned before, for sales in the market. And fourth, we have a society, which is for whenever there is a need to raise any kind of a cause, or when the community is in trouble, or when the community needs fundraising from crowdfunding sources or something like that, then society comes into the picture. Society is also the one which goes with and have talks with the government. So you can see that we have like a combination of cooperative societies, private limited companies, Section 8 companies, and society, so that we can combine everything all together and then come up as a social enterprise in a better way, with better prospects.
Absolutely.
So this is what Himalayan Hemp has been all about. And I also have my co-founder Sonam Soda, who's not here today, but the credit goes to her as much as to me for having this entity altogether.
Perfect, Haneesh. Haneesh, one thing that I wanted to ask you first is that historically hemp has been a bad word, or say a banned word or a concept, and more so in India. Of course, the consumption of cannabis has been there historically. It can go to thousands and thousands of years. But in last few years only, we've seen acceptance by our ecosystem, by our government institutions. Of course, we'll talk about government funds that you've been able to receive to also. How has that journey been? As you know, when you started it, you knew it was almost a banned product or it was a bad product. How did you navigate through that? How did you take off with that notion of hemp that existed?
See, initially when we joined with the, like say, I have been using cannabis myself since 2008. So my journey has been personal with it also. And but since 2016, like I also have a parallel profile as a writer. And in 2014, I was writing about, who is doing something different in India. So I interviewed two people in that. I didn't interview them, but I wrote about them. Interview was done by somebody else. One of them was Vicky Varora, who was treating cancer patients by using cannabis oil. And another person was Amit Tida, who was doing some research in the ayahuasca plant to understand DMT more properly. And those two things were like completely different for me as a person, because so far I had understood cannabis from a recreational point of view. Or hemp was not even, that much into my mind only, I will say initially. And when I wrote about them, then I went and talked to Vicky Varora about his, why he's doing what he's doing and all of it. So I joined him for some time for work, and there we understood that how cannabis was beneficial for the cancer patients, and cancer patients were visiting his place, and he was counseling them. So all those things were going on. So that is where our research happened. Like, okay, all these things can happen with hemp and cannabis. While doing that, policy came into the Uttarakhand that, okay, hemp has been, made available, industrial hemp, and now, it can be used for a variety of purposes. But when we went deeper into it, we understood that this is not the kind of policy that we needed. And, initially there was, but it also gave us an insight that government is looking forward to do something about it, because you don't actually need to, criticize everything which is being brought in by the government. We can just navigate our things through it. So we found that, okay, this is not the best policy, but at least it's there and we can do something about it. And it also shows us that government is thinking something in those lines. So we registered our own entity, private limited company, and then after registering the private limited company, we started applying in different incubations. And Advait Pillai, who is one of the connections through Vindhya as well in Swechha, India, he also helped us a lot in getting through all of them. And we are right now incubated in 5 different government incubation centers, and we have received 3 grants. So that shows us that, government is considering hemp industry, hemp companies for further funding so that they can grow. And I would suggest the same to a lot of other hemp companies. Like, if you have something innovative, like our products were also innovative. One of them was Sanitary, world's first hemp sanitary pad. So that product has itself his 3 grants. But if you have a business model which is not clear, which doesn't have a social impact, then government doesn't have an option to give a funding to you. But otherwise, government is looking forward to invest money into hemp companies because it understands that there is potential.
Very interesting, Haneesh, what you said just now. That and that's a big conversation. That a lot of times we look at social impact, which is important, but at the same time, product viability and product acceptance and product virality is also very, very important. That you might be creating a product which actually ticks all the right boxes when it comes to social or ecological impact. But if there's no acceptance of that product in the society, then that great storytelling is of no use. And very interestingly, what you have done in your enterprise, what I understand from your conversation right now, is to mix both social and ecological relevance is one thing. Second, the fact that there is a cooperative and therefore there is actual community ownership and community involvement in your entire business is the second part of it. And the third very, very important aspect of it is the product that you make, which actually is a common product, perhaps, and you don't need to convince a normal consumer to buy a sanitary napkin because they anyway use a sanitary pad or a sanitary napkin. And in this case, they're using a more responsible and a more safe and a more eco-friendly sanitary napkin. Am I right in this?
Yes. Actually, that is why, when people were focusing more on CBD, when there were talks about, CBD's prices, this and that, we should get into medical cannabis. We thought about that. We don't want to get into the bandwagon in the same way, like what everybody else is doing. First of all, we have to have our own USP, and USP has to be in terms of what India actually needed in these times. I'm talking about India because I'm in this country, and I'm thinking about its development altogether. If I was in some other country, I have a world view, not a limited national view in that. But so far, we felt that India needed sanitary pad at its best, because a product looked like very simple initially, I will say that. And it was my co-founder Sonam's idea, because she's a woman herself and she understands it. And we were a traveling duo. Like, we used to go and travel to the high mountains, and we used to contemplate things over there. And that is where, during one of those travels, she felt that she needed the hemp-based sanitary pad. And we looked online, and we were shocked to find that there was not a single hemp sanitary pad. So we thought, let's make this sanitary pad first. And it looked very simple initially, but still, it's still going on. It's been 3-4 years, and sanitary pad has still in the process of research in a proper way, because it turned out to be a very complicated product, I would say. I mean, it is not a very simple, just a fabric based product. It's a very risky product, and we are still, but it's innovative. That is why we got the grants. And this is my suggestion to all the companies, if they will watch this interview, that you have to be innovative in your approach, and you have to be thinking in lines with what our country needs and what our ecosystem needs, than what the market is actually going into as a bandwagon.
And so what, it's been 11 years that you've been around?
I mean, see, our company was registered 4 years ago. But say, before registering the company, you need to establish certain facts, like 2 years it took for us to decide, okay, we want to start something like this. So you can say 6-7 years.
6-7 years is what it's been. And how has, been the response of your immediate community and your family members? Because, a lot of times these enterprises are, when we talk about social enterprises or community-based enterprises, the need of it, or the inspiration of it, or the push for it, or the support for it actually comes immediately from your own, as some of the names that you said, some of your friends, but also your family members and your own community. So how has the response been all this while? And my linked question to this is that when you started this enterprise 6-7 years ago, when you and Sonam decided to take off and go on this journey, where did the capital come from? Did you have that capital? Did you raise it from your family and friends, or you took it from a bank? How did it all begin?
See, in this, for understanding this, we have to understand a lot of other things, which is first thing is that our backgrounds. Like, Sonam is a woman, like, in a way, like, you understand how feminism works in India. And I am a male for sure, but I come from a low caste background. So we both had this kind of a nurturing sense from the very beginning, from the childhood itself, that, we have to do something for, making things better for the society in a lot of ways. Like, not just in the feministic ways, or not just in, enhancing the social fabric, but there were many other things. So when we used to tell somebody that we are in the business of hemp or cannabis or bhang, they used to say, why don't you do something more respectful? Like, that is one of the things which we hear from our relatives. But when we tell them, but when I come to my village's name is Samar. And if you try to find it on Google Maps also, you won't be able to find it, because this village doesn't even have road connectivity right now. Internet has started flourishing over here. But as soon as I showed the sanitary pad to the women in this area, they were ready to work on it. Like, they said that, when are you launching this product? We want our daughters to try this, and we also want to work on this stitching.
Just to tell you, I'm actually getting goosebumps listening to this story. Please go on. Sorry to interrupt. Amazing.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. So basically, so they have accepted it. My, near relatives have accepted it. And I was a writer from before. I used to be a writer. Like, I'm into writing field since 2007. So since then, I have been writing about things, like I mentioned. I interviewed those people. I wrote about those people who were doing something different in India. So it was more about breaking down the notions which are holding people back. Like, whenever I used to talk to people about, their inhibitions or whatever weaknesses they felt, I was able to perceive them. I don't know why, maybe because belonging to a lower caste, you feel like you can empathize more properly with the people and their notions. And Sonam, being a woman, she also understood it that this sanitary pad was needed. She was already in line with doing things for women, and her family took time to understand it. But then they also understood it eventually when funding started coming in and all of it. And initially, from the government side also, I mean, now the way I look like is another thing which comes into the picture here. Like as I go, I get a lot of side eye whenever it comes to that. But as soon as I start speaking about, this is also to break that barrier where long hair people are mostly perceived as Baba or as somebody who's a rash kind of a person. And I also wanted to, break down that notion as well. Like a long haired person can also be a businessman, a very serious businessman, and, can do things which are, desirable in the society. So I have maintained it, even if now I feel like I am not a writer and traveler anymore. I'm an entrepreneur, so I should do it. And when I go to the government, they also think twice before speaking with me, because they feel like, who is this guy and what? And he's into hemp and cannabis, so he must be somebody like that. So these kinds of judgments come. But then I'm educated in my own approach. I can speak for myself very properly, so that helps. And coming to the finance part, since I mentioned that I have a writing based organization, so there I make some money. So that is for that I used to get seasonal work. I used to work for 6 months before, and 6 months I used to take rest. And that is what I thought I will do this for the rest of my life. But after doing it for 2-3 years, I got bored in those remaining 6 months also. I thought I'll do something different. So then hemp started eventually, and the savings from the writing work have started coming in from there. We didn't take any funding from the families because our families don't have any. And I mean, that is how it has been going.
Interesting. So it's your personal resources, and from that you and Sonam took a risk and you went ahead. And very interestingly, when you talk about the stereotype that people have about things, as in this particular case, you're wearing a white shirt and you have a long hair and beard and you deal with hemp, and you live in the mountains. So it's it's very interesting. And of course, many of those stereotypes, a lot of times people compromise and say that you need to adjust, you need to shave, and you need to dress in a particular way if you really need to sell your product. But in your case, what you've shown is that your belief and your quality of product, your quality of enterprise, and the entire modeling that you've actually done, which is amazing, and that is more and more important. You touched upon two things, Haneesh. One is about your co-founder being a woman and you being from a lower caste. Now, has it affected positively or negatively in your journey, last 7 years of journey, or in your growth in any ways? Has it opened more doors, or has it shut doors? Has it given you better livelihood perspective, a very, very socio-economic understanding, dimension of social justice and things? How has this helped your own understanding or help your own business in a good way or a bad way?
Right. So there are two ways into this. One is that, I started identifying myself as a person belonging to this caste from last 1 year only. And before that, I never used to tell this to the people, because it was not because I was scared. It was more because I didn't believe in it personally. I was like, everybody is equal and everybody should have, and I didn't feel all of those things after I moved down from the village. Otherwise, if I tell you the reality, like the village that I'm in right now, it entirely belongs to the low caste. There is a Rajput village just besides my village. There is a Brahmin village right outside over there. It's already like fragmented over there, like in that rural India. But then I kind of ignored this topic initially because maybe I didn't get those friends. Like I went out in Gujarat, I studied over there, and I was mostly in touch with the students who belong to the arts and history, and they never made me feel anything like that. But as soon as I left my job, I quit my job after 6 years. Like I quit my job when I was earning 50,000 rupees a month. But since what I was doing in my job is just, scrolling my screen up and down, and I didn't want anything to, it's a waste of my time, even if I'm making money. So I came back to the village. As soon as I came back to the village, those realities again hit me up. And what happened is like in Kullu, when I was I have made a hut over there, like a hemp-based hut, which is India has only 3 hemp-based buildings right now. One of them belongs to us. So we made it over there. And that building is always on the verge of crumble because it has been made on a Rajput land. And, they didn't know that by the way I talk and the way I look, I don't look like a person from the low caste. So they perceive me as somebody who is, who belongs to them, like that. So they let me work, but I'm always on this fragile mode. Like as soon as they come to know about it, I don't know whether that building will be safe anymore, whether they want something to do with it or not. So that is one of the things which I face these days also, like repercussions in a way, like which, are, highly effective in the rural areas. And the second is coming back to Sonam. Now feminism has taken a lot of progress in the last few years in India, but it's still not up to the mark. Like even today also, when I have to deal with me being a low caste, I also have to be empathetic to Sonam, but I was able to be empathetic, and that is why the product was like that, because we both were able to understand what kind of problems people actually face. And even when it comes to like deal with the farmers, we don't see them as like as somebody who belongs. We don't try to see them as somebody who belongs to a specific gender or they belong to a specific social community. But if we try to do it like that, then it's not realistic anymore. Even when we go to the villages, there are 2 kinds of farmers. One farmer is the one with the land, and another farmer is one who has been a slave of that farmer from previously. And if we try to work with the slave farmer who doesn't have the land, then we lose money in that. Why? Because that farmer doesn't have so many resources. But when I connect with the farmer who has a land, who has money, then my money is safe into investing into that person. But then I'm not really doing justice to the entire ecosystem like I should. But then I'm not in that position also. Like if I was Ambani's son, then maybe I could have done something in that line, but I'm not that. So I have to think about my financial security also, my partner's financial security also. Then the team's financial security comes, then, I can think about something else. So
it's a journey, Haneesh. It's a journey, as you rightly said, that those are dilemmas. We don't find the right answers on day one, as in the fact that you're even thinking about this reality that exists on ground. I'm sure there'll be a solution. There will be a rich farmer and also a landless farmer who will be part of this ecosystem, and you'll be able to work one day, inshallah, in that sense. When you said that you have 3 grants from the government, was it easy to get those grants? Did you approach them or did they approach you?
No, obviously we only approached them. But it wasn't easy. Like I'll say first grant that we received was of 5 lakh rupees, which was from National Institute of Agricultural Marketing, Jaipur. And that actually we got after 2 rounds of interviews, and then we attended it physically, and it was right before COVID started. And we were able to finish it. Actually, ours was the last batch before COVID, which was finished, and rest of the batches they had to do online. And it was a nice journey in a way that I was really amazed that government officials were able to accept people like me. When I say people, who have this kind of a rubreka. And I didn't expect that. I was actually thinking that if, I lose 1 or 2 times, then maybe I'll reconsider, my approach. But then it worked. Actually, maybe then I thought, okay, maybe looks is something which is not of the matter here. Your approach is something which you should keep. And then the second grant that I received was from Amrita TBI under Nidhi EIR scheme, which was a sustenance allowance of 30,000 rupees per month. And that just kept us going for the allowance point of view. The biggest and the latest one that we got was a direct big grant of 50 lakh rupees. And its first tranche we just received. And with this tranche, we will be able to create our own plot, and we will be able to have machines, and we will be able to launch our product more properly.
So it's a grant and not a loan. It's a grant.
It's a government grant. And this 50 lakh rupees grant was something which we won after 4 or 5 rounds, and it wasn't easy. Like, for example, we scored 81 out of 100 in the.
And you didn't have to, just as in it's an off question, but you didn't have to pay anyone to get this 40, 50 lakh rupees?
No. And also in the benefit of the grant is that I don't have to pay it back in a way. Like, even if I fail, then also I am not liable to pay it back. So that is one of the good factors. But, I take it more like an opportunity. In a way, like this fund is there, like milestones are there. I have to follow the milestones for sure. And then if I follow the milestones, then automatically everything gets established. And so far we are able to complete the milestones. And one interesting incident I'll tell you, like once I was traveling from Kullu to my home in a car, and I was carrying hemp fiber with me for research purposes. And I was stopped by a policeman, and just for regular routine checkup. And as I told him that we make sanitary pads from hemp and cannabis, he said that you will say anything to get away. He started laughing, he started making fun of me. And that gave me a very deep insight about actually how interesting or disruptive our product can be, because he's not even able to believe that this kind of a product can exist. And that gave me more motivation to do more about it, so that more and more people can know about it, and it's not a joke anymore that sanitary pad from hemp exists.
So right now, this grant that you actually received, you're actually spending or investing this more in infrastructure building and process building, right?
In more like testing also. Like for example, our sanitary pad is validated in terms of the basic needs. Like, you will be surprised to know that in India, for launching a sanitary pad product, you just need one basically certification, which is for the leak proof ability. There is no particular standardization for safety of it and all of it. But then we want to, so our testing basically is done. I can launch my product even today also. But we want to be more responsible. So we are conducting antibacterial testing, antiviral testing, and also dampness, and many other tests which are possible now with this grant, like since the money is covered in this grant. And we thank KIIT Bhubaneswar and NFDI, which is an incubation center in NIFT, Delhi. So they are helping us in that. And if this happens, then I think this will be really beneficial for us.
I was also reading about your respiratory mask, the mask that you're doing, with COVID and masks being everywhere. Can you tell us a little more about that? How did that happen? Did you think about making a mask because of COVID? Was it because of demand that came, or is it something that you always imagined?
No. Getting into the mask was something that we had never thought about, because we were already working on sanitary pads. And then, mask happened because we were also ready to do joint ventures with people. Like, since we are a social enterprise, we also promote the joint venturing with different kinds of new industries in hemp also. So we did it in a joint venture with two more companies, which is Avega Green Technologies Private Limited and Small Spark Concepts Technologies Private Limited. The both are based in Pune. And it happened because COVID happened. And then we already had an expertise in fabric in terms of women were stitching it for us, like from sanitary pads. They were already trained, so they could also do this kind of a project as well. And we quickly started making it. But as we started making it, we also felt that it should be validated as well. So we got it validated from two different entities, government entities in India, and it is validated for N95 property. So it is validated now, but that joint venture is in the process of closing, because we feel that this N95 masks may not be that much relevant in terms of putting efforts in this stage. If there are small orders, we can fulfill them, but we are not very progressing into this.
And the hemp, I know I should have asked this question first. This hemp growing, do you do it locally, or do you buy grown hemp? And do you also make fabric? Do you also sell this fabric, or only finished products?
No, see, we so far we are not cultivating hemp anywhere, because there is no policy for growing the indigenous cannabis and hemp variety. So until unless that doesn't come, we won't be doing the cultivation. But so far we get it from the persons who are already growing it, and then we take it and then we use it in making the sanitary pads. If it is less from Uttarakhand, we also have connections in Nepal from where we can procure the fiber. Even if that doesn't work, we had recently visited Europe, so we also have we can get hemp fiber from Romania and China as well, just in case when there is a shortage, whenever there is something like this. So that is one thing. Now the second is your question was, I think, about this.
Do you sell the fabric or only processed goods?
Yes. So basically, right now we don't have any manufacturing facility in a way. What we do is we get the fiber from the farmers through our farmer cooperative. We send it to a textile manufacturer who processes this and converts that in the form of a fabric. We take that fabric and then we give it to the women artisans so that they can stitch it. So this is what we are doing.
But these artisans are also in your village and around your village? Or
No. They are in 6-7 different places. They are in Gujarat, UP, Uttarakhand, and Himachal.
Oh.
And also in Maharashtra, like in Pune. So it's in different parts of the country. Because we are traveling, so before we used to travel aimlessly. Now whenever we go to a village, we see whosoever is stitching over there, we go and talk to them. If they're interested, we train them, and it just starts over there. And that just fulfills it in a way that our travel is much more valuable now. So that is one thing. But now with this grant, we will be able to make our own fabric as well. So what happens is our entire supply chain is properly made now, because that other third-party manufacturers, sometimes they don't have the machine availability. There are many ups and downs in the supply chain when things are maintained outside. But with this grant, we will be able to make it ourselves. So apart from sanitary pad, we have other products also that we sell. One is this fabric as well. We can sell fabric also, fiber as a raw material as well. And since we recently started making this building, like for example, I can show you this particular. This is a miniature of the building that we have made. It's a very small miniature. So if any of your team members ever visit Kullu, I would love to show you the building that we have made. So we also have a crew now, like we have named it as Hemp Slab Crew, because in this if you are from a village, then you must remember that we used to walk on the mud for making a plaster kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So we do that, and then we take that mud in our hand, we slap it on the wall like this. So that is why we named this project separately as Hemp Slab. Okay. And so we have a crew. So if anybody is interested in making an eco-friendly build or something like that, then
amazing. We are building a farm school on the outskirts of Rajasthan. We are actually doing this wattle and daub and mud houses and bamboo structures. This is exactly.
It is wattle and daub only.
Absolutely. I will get in touch with you for this. I would love to have a hemp hut at our farm school that we are building. Haneesh, have you ever raised resources from a private institution or from a bank?
Not so far, because we mostly look for debt-based funding. I'm not looking for equity-based investors for now, because hemp industry has a potential, and the kind of vision that we follow, including anybody from the outside, has to be done very carefully. Yeah. So there have been investors in touch, but I have been very selective of that. But now, since we have got this grant and this shed we are making, so actually tomorrow only, after this interview only, I have to go and meet a PNB official, Punjab National Bank official, for taking a loan of 25 to 30 lakh. So, I am thinking like to better go with the loan rather than, involving an investor altogether, until and unless we are ready for that properly. So currently we are not up for an investor who is looking for equity, only for an investor who is ready for giving us a debt-based funding.
Okay. And, if right now, if the money has to be, if you get this, say 20 lakhs, 30 lakh rupees, or another grant from the government, which is the area that, other than this infrastructure and your own processing unit and everything else that you are looking at investing in, is there any other area that you think needs funding? It could be marketing, it could be communication, it could be branding, it could be, as you said, technology. Any areas of your enterprise that needs funding right now?
Yes. We actually, right now we have like 5 full-time people in our organization, and 20, you can say, on and off, they keep coming. And now I want to bring them on board for full time because I have worked with them. Only thing I'm not able to take them full time on board because I can't afford them basically. So for the manpower, we properly need funding for that. We also need funding for the marketing. We already have a very good online presence with 6,000 followers on Instagram and 12,000 followers on Facebook, but we are very irregular in posting these days. So we need somebody for taking care of marketing, offline and online marketing. We already have a good brand appeal online in a way that people understand us as a community organization. But so far my community spirit is not that much up to the mark at the moment, because of some incidents which have happened recently in the hemp industry. I feel that hemp industry altogether lacks many of the things which we can discuss later on maybe, but this topic is something different. And so we need funding for the marketing, for manpower, for attaining the manpower. And also third is, as we going deeper into it, there is more research based things like in our hemp sanitary pad, the lower layer that we are using PLA based alternative, but we want to make hemp based plastic. So we are in touch with the Canadian professor for that, who is saying that this research can be done in $50,000. So these kinds of research based expenses have also come up, so we have just kept him on hold till the time but whenever I'm applying for the grants now, I include that amount also in the grants, so it becomes clearer.
Okay, Haneesh, so in conclusion, my last question to you, and it's indeed been a pleasure talking to you. My last question to you is that, do you have any suggestions to make to budding social entrepreneurs, budding hemp entrepreneurs, or anything specific, any specific ask that you'd have of the government also? So a suggestion for your other colleagues and fellow entrepreneurs, and perhaps an ask from our ecosystem in conclusion, please.
Right. So basically from my own, like whenever somebody new comes into the hemp industry, they feel like they want to do everything, like from growing the raw material to, processing it, then, selling it and all of it. But that should not be the case. Like anybody who is coming into the hemp industry, they already have their feet in one of the fields, like they're doing. Like somebody is coming as an automobile engineer, or somebody is coming as from oil and gas industry. So they should not leave their industry altogether. They should find a way to incorporate hemp in that. Like somebody coming from oil and gas industry can straight away start working on making biofuels. Or somebody, like, they don't need to entirely shift from the industry, which will make them lose a lot of money. That is one of the suggestions I would like them to make. Second is, when it comes to hemp, like since I said that I am a user myself since 2008. So there are two kinds of people coming into the hemp industry. One, there are people like me who are connected with the plant. That's why they are doing it. They're deeply rooted into it. And there are second kind of organizations which are coming there looking at the hemp's potential, like say from the business point of view. They haven't used the plant before or things like that. So when it comes to matching all of them together, so the people who are just coming from the outside in a way to understand the market potential and everything without using it, they don't fully believe in it. So what happens is, when I believe in it fully because I know how it affects everything. So even if I take losses, I go with it. But when they take losses, they understand their lesson in a very hard way. So that is my suggestion to them. Like whenever you are entering from one industry to another, that transition should be smooth and not very intense kind of a thing. And from the government point of view, I have these one or two asks from the government. Already they are doing good by providing funding and grants to the hemp-based companies. But making policies, like say for example, government is going step by step. Like they are saying that we go with industrial hemp. First, we make policies on the basis of that. People do something in those lines. But I can say, like recently we did a visit to Europe, where we saw that people in Amsterdam are doing it. Like say it was a very good business model where you set up a coffee shop and you just sell joints and coffee into it, like a very low budget but good high income investment. So what is happening today, that it has been misused so far. Say narcotic has been used and people are, like Delhi and Bombay are one of the highest consumers, two of the highest consumers of cannabis in India. So when government is thinking that it can be misused even after the policy is coming, it has already been misused. By making the policy, the misuse might come down, because the product which is going into the black market, that might come into the white market. Like it's more like a, keeping the same resources and then, taking the taxes from it and then taking money from it. Because just like liquor gives a lot of money to the government in terms of taxes, I won't put it in the same category as a liquor, but then since it's an intoxicant and people use it also in the same way, so it can also get a lot of tax benefits. The second is that its availability for the black market will go down, because black market is still flourishing, because the product is still there. Even if you reduce it, since it's coming from the nature, it will keep coming. So it cannot be stopped. We can only use it in some way. So that is one of the another suggestions. Third and last suggestion is that making policies which are made more on indigenous lines. Not taking the seeds from the outside, because this Uttarakhand policy is also made on the basis of the THC level should be less than 0.3%, which is straight away copied from the US government's policy. Now in US it is fine, because in those geographical conditions you can have less than 0.3% THC in your plant. But in India it's not possible. Like the geographical conditions are such which will make it exceed more than 0.3% THC. So why to change that perspective altogether and working in line with that? So
I don't understand some of these THC level and other things. As in, in India, there's also, we were talking about cannabis or hemp as a fabric, not as a consumption. There's a lot of complicated laws and things around this. Thank you, Haneesh. It's been a pleasure talking about your story, your enterprise, your perseverance, your growth plan, and how you've been able to navigate this entire ecosystem sitting in a village, which is not easy. I should tell you, you are one of the first people that I've interviewed for this particular project who's been grateful and supportive and has kind things to say about government's approach towards social enterprises. So I'm very happy that there is something that is happening, and there's a lot that can still happen by government and ecosystem intervention in that sense. Thanks a lot, Haneesh, once again for participating in this in-depth interview that was with IGES and with Swechha. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.